Today we're going to be installing some ADV fenders from Advanced Fiberglass Concepts onto the 5th Gen 4Runner. These guys are super wide, super beefy. I'm excited to be putting these on. It's going to be fun. Welcome to Snail Trail 4x4. I'm Jimmy Jett, and if you like working on Toyotas and going off-roading, then this is the channel for you. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button down below. Today we're going to be installing some fiberglass fenders on the 5th Gen 4Runner. These fenders give us a 3-inch wider and 2 inches taller stance than the stock fenders. We're super excited to be putting these on today because the goal here is to try to get larger tires underneath. Not sure how much bigger we're going to be able to go. The goal is to get to 35s, maybe larger, but first we got to put these fenders on and see what we can achieve. All right, so we just popped the hood here, and what we did is we actually removed this weather stripping. It's just on these little hooks that go in there, and you just kind of pull it off, so that gets rid of the weather stripping. Now there are some slidable locking tabs in here, and then up in the front there's actually or in the corner here at the hood, there's one of these plastic yellow tabs. I'm just going to pop this front thing to get a little bit of room here, and then I'm just going to slide the rest of this up. There, and there, and then it just comes on off. All right, so the next thing we're doing here is we're actually taking apart the front bumper. We're going to take this top part off. There's a few things here. There's a 10mm bolt, and then we got to pry these clips up. If you want to know more about how to take this front bumper apart, go watch the C4 Fab front bumper install, where I go into depth about these steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bolts right here on the fender. We're going to pull those off. They're all 10mm, and these actually are cool because they have a hex head in them as well. There's a few more additional bolts underneath that we're going to have to pull off because we're taking the bumper off right now because we're assuming that there's going to be a bolt in this area and probably around here as well. Underneath the bumper, we have to detach to take off this fender. Not a whole lot of instructions on this, so we're kind of going winging it as we go, but that's why we're making the video for you guys. So when you pull the bumper off, it exposes this piece of plastic right here. There's looks like a 10mm bolt right here and a 10mm bolt in this hole. This one looks like it's just a clip. So we're going to pull those off now. And we did explore on the inside fender or inside door. There's a bolt in there. All right, so we just pulled this section off right here with those 2 bolts, but I wanted to show that there's on the back side there's 2 clips. There's one on here and one right here. Both of these. This one's a clip, and that one also has a clip with the bolt in it. So you're going to yank the bolts out, but then you got to press the clips. And thank you, Toyota. They made them up and down in this area, so it's super tight and kind of difficult to get to. Now that we have the plastic piece off right here, there are 2 screws that go on the inside. These are both 10mm as well, so we're going to pull those off, and that should start freeing the fender up pretty good. So we're excited. All right, so what we're going to do is now we're going to remove there's 3 bolts on the top and then a screw here. And then to remove the headlight, because we're going to have to play with that and finagle it around, we're going to remove the screw here and the one down there as well. So got to pull all these out. All right, so we're lowering the hood here just so we can reach in and grab this guy up here. Oh, and you got to pull this little plastic part off that just pops off. It's just a little pry. And then you can get to this bolt up top. Here we are on the inside of the door with the dash right here. There's another bolt right there that we have to undo that holds the fender to the body. So these black caps, there's another little bolt underneath it, and you just kind of yank it off and it comes off. And then we have another bolt underneath there to start removing the fender with. So I just wadded up some tape here on the corner of the fender and up on the top because our light slid down. So we actually just zip tied it up into place. I don't want to scratch up the headlight. So I just put some tape on these corners to prevent it from scratching. All we have left are some clips that are holding the fender liner in. And with this mod, you don't need to use your fender liner again. It doesn't reach to the new fenders. So we're just going to kind of hack it up and cut it up and try to get it out easy because the tabs are a pain in the butt. So we're just going to yank these. Ready to get this? All right, and then there we go. That came out too. All right, so we just yanked it and brutally handled it, and it came off. And that's what we want. So here's the fender that we're going to be installing. One of the things that you need to take into account is that there's some excess fiberglass here where the headlight is. And we found that a Dremel tool used cut that out really well. We were using an angle grinder, and it was maybe a little bit too aggressive and a big surface area, so it was kind of hard to control. So you are going to need to cut this area out for the headlight to make sure that it fits right. We also ran into an issue up here at the top for where this is the part right behind the hood latch. We were actually hitting on the back side of this on the other side, and so we'll take that into account on this one to see if we have that problem too. Also, none of the holes are punched out on the top here, so you need to mark and very carefully cut those out on every single one. We did pilot holes first, and then we're going to do the larger holes second to make sure that they fit. Check your bits and check the part that are going through there and make sure that you don't go too large because then it won't stick. But every hole, so like this one's the hood area, that one needs to gets cut out. This one's down for the bottom behind the door, so that needs to get cut out. And all these right here, all these right here, which are underneath the light, all need to get cut out. So this is a very slow process, step by step. Make sure that one thing fits before you move on to the next, and so on and so forth. So we're going to start up here, make sure this fits, and then we're going to work our way down. So we'll make sure the bottom one fits, and then we'll work our way forward to the front. If the fender is not on fully, you can see how it's just not exactly matching up there, and you shut the hood, that end right here really starts to go up. And so you got to make sure that that is properly pushed over. Brennan, will you lower that hood here in a sec? You got to make sure that this is going to be pushed over fully so that it misses the little catch over there. So you got, this is why we're going to work on this tab first and make sure that this thing's lined up. You want a good line here, a good line here, and for that catch not to hit. Okay, and so I'm just going to feel it. And then we're going to mark it. And we're going to do a small little pilot hole. I think that's perfect, but we're going to do a small little pilot hole to see how we're doing, if we're fitting up right. We're going to pull it out so that we're not drilling into anything we shouldn't. And this tab we've got to be very careful with because it's not supported by a whole lot. So we're just going to be nice and gentle. We're going to just pop that hole right where we marked it with a pilot bit. All right, there we go. Now back up into place. You good where you're at? I can see straight down. That's perfect. That's a perfect spot. All right, so now we're going to drill that larger. All right, make sure you're wearing gloves because because this is just primered right now, that your fingerprints and any dirty hands will show up on it. So, and we're going to be using a 5/16 drill bit, and we're going to go very slow and careful through there. There we go. If yours happens to be really close to the edge, a trick that you can do is go in reverse and give it a little bit of pressure, because the reverse will still cut. It'll take a little bit longer, but you're not using the sharp end, so it's not going to grip and catch and tear that apart. All right, so let's put this back up into place. All right, so we're just going to put one of the original hardwares up into place. Can you lower the hood a little? Thanks. They're small, and the fiberglass is thicker, but they do work. The next thing we need to take into account is actually how your door acts with the fender. So you don't want this too far back, because then when you open your door, it's going to push in on the fender and mess it up. So you got to pull it away. Also, if you can, you want to make sure that you have a good line all the way down and around. I would definitely hold it into place, find a line that works, and test opening the door and shutting it and seeing if it fits. So that's what I like right there. It's not the smoothest of line. We're a little bit larger down here, but if we make it even, it rubs. It's rubbing right here. Now we fit it up again and see if it works. The hole looks good where we have it, so we're going to leave it there. We're going to just drill it bigger with that 5/16. But we need to take this off. There we go, larger hole. So now what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna put this back up into place again and make sure that those two fit well and we're not rubbing on the door anymore. There we go. All right, let's just double check it with the door. Totally clear. I'm really looking on the inside here to make sure that the door is not hitting the fiberglass that's on the inside. It's super close, but it's not hitting. And we're tight up here and we got a little bit larger of a gap, but that's where the door has to go. That's how the fiberglass is sitting. We're off of just a hair up here, but this side looks pretty good. So that's it. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna work on that front headlight and we're gonna make sure that it fits and we can fit everything else around it. So we've put the fender in place. We're bolted on the back side and it looks fairly well positioned on the top here. So we just stuck the light in to see how it fits. And this is where we're talking about. There's excess fiberglass up here at the top and then we're colliding down here. And we're gonna try to take all that off so that the top of the headlight actually goes to the top of this line. That's what the first move we're gonna do. But this is to be expected. You're gonna have to manipulate the fiberglass here to make sure that this fits correctly. So we put a bunch of towels and stuff on here because we're gonna use the Dremel here and it's gonna make a big old mess and we didn't want too much stuff going on the inside of the engine. Plus right there is the battery and the Switch Pro. Whenever working with fiberglass, make sure that you get all your gear, eyes and all the protection and mouth and everything. We're gonna cut that line right now and see how things fit. We're not in at all here. Yeah, there you go. So, it's a little better. Ooh, careful. Cracked it. Make sure to be careful when you're doing this. Got to slide back in that channel. So I think we got to take this. This is what we need to work on first, and then we'll continue to head back with that line. Mm-hmm. Maybe if we can, you know, come more, take that corner off.
Up there, up in there. Let's take that off first.
Let's take this off first. All right, so we've gone through a few edits and updates. One of the things that you need to make sure that you're doing is that you're setting the light up into its positions. So we just got to make sure that it's sitting in the right spot on the frame. So then, so then when we are looking at what we need to edit or fix or tweak. So this just takes a ton of steps, a lot of practice, a lot of, you know, just making sure that you're getting everything into the right spots. We're now hitting up top here.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's where that
it doesn't look
originally.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we're hitting down here so much anymore.
Still not touching down here.
Nope, we're totally...
Oh, no, it is. Down here. That point right on the end.
Is it?
Needs to come off, yep.
Okay, that's good.
That point needs to come off. Maybe a little, like right at the, see that line? Right there. Right at that light.
Yeah. So this bracket's a little tight, but we're gonna try to shove it that way some more. This one's actually in place and this guy's sitting in place. So the headlight's right where it should be. We do have a gap here, but when we drill the bolt through, we should be able to tighten that up. So that shouldn't be an issue. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna mark these bolt holes coming forward. There's one back here. There's gonna be one here and one here. We're gonna mark those. We're gonna do the pilots and go larger, just like we did before. So it looks pretty good. We got a good line right along here. It's pretty even all the way from the start to the finish. It actually might be a little itty bitty bit larger there at the end. I don't know, it's pretty dang close. It fits pretty well in there. We did also get these 3 bolts in, so everything's tight. We did have to shove it pretty hard in that direction to get that nice line that I was showing you earlier. Now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to cut this, make it into a square. We'll file it into a square. We'll drill a round hole and file the corners out. And then we have to do the same down along here for this plastic bracket. So we marked these holes here. We held this up into place, just aligning it as best as we could. And then we just marked the bottom of them. These are the bolts holes for the brackets on the back side. So we just line those up and mark those. So now we're going to pull it off once again, and we're going to drill these holes. So we just popped a hole right there for these brackets. These guys are squares on the back side, so we're using a triangle file and we're just putting some corners in, making sure that it's going to fit. That one that Brenan's working on right now is smaller than the one in the far back side. That one is a little larger, that one there. All right, so we popped all these holes. We went 5/16, 5/16, 5/16, 5/16 there, and then we did that one out of 3/8 because it's the larger part. Brenan did some amazing filing to square those guys out, and everything looks like it's lining up pretty well. So we're just going to pop the 2 screws in now down at the bottom. Now, because of these were squared off, we can just push those into place. And since we lined it all up all the way along here, it looks really good. The screw goes in there and the bolt goes in there. This one's just a clip, and we're going to have to drill that one out because there's a tab. Right here is the tab. So we're going to drill through that so we can get that tab in to suck into that fiberglass. So this hole right here is not nearly aligned enough. The plastic and the fiberglass matched up perfectly, but actually the headlight needs to come up, the bracket for the headlight. So we might have to drill the hole a little bit farther down to fit the bracket if we want to keep the light exactly right there. So I'm being super careful on this one. I've drilled it like 4 times, going slightly larger, and larger every single time because it's just so close to the edge. The mark that I think is factory or whatever what came with these fenders is back there. I'm not sure if you can see that on the video. So just it's so close to this edge, and then we're going to have to file it square to fit the plastic piece that goes in there for the bit. So we're going to have to file it to fit that. We're just being super careful to do that. On the flip side, what we did down here is we drilled this out oblong and had it fit. So it's going to be fairly good when we get it all lined up and everything. It'll work well. We also drilled out the plastic part. We just drilled another hole a little lower, and so we believe that's going to work out great. So we got that in. It was super nerve-wracking, but it did work. We used these small files, the flat triangular one and a round one, to just work it up to the right size. So we got that to go. This is all in place. We oblonged that. Everything is in line, and I think we're ready to, for the most part, button that up. All right, bumper on, test fit. All right, looking good there. We don't really need to pop that side. So one of the things, there's this white tab. You're probably not going to see it from that angle, but this white, there's a big old bulge here, and it goes into one of the holes in the plastic underneath your light. You'll know when it goes in when that pops through. Then, now we need to push it. There. There we go. So there's this, the fender pokes out a little bit right there. We were told we needed to shim this side right here. It's just super tight right here. Even the plastic's kind of bending and not super, or is becoming weak. We did shim this side to pull it out a little bit more right here and push it that direction, and that helped a lot. It was a lot worse than this. We're going to probably have to take the bumper off one more time, and I can show you that shim. So what we did here is we actually put a big washer. I think that's like a 1 1/4 washer with a rubber grommet with another washer on it. And that gave us about 1/4 of an inch shim right there on this side. And that's going to hold the plastic part away from the from the fiberglass fenders. So that it allows the fender to line up much more smoothly. It was very far in the first time we did it, so we had to adjust it with that shim right there. So we were all done for the most part, except we haven't done the top. Then we forgot we had to drill those hole in the door jamb. So that's what we're doing now. All right, hopefully this is the last time. and everything's gonna look great. All right, we're on the final stretch here. We found it a lot easier to actually pull these little tabs that were on the weather stripping out completely, which is just a basic little pinch to just pull them out of there. And then that way you can just thread them in before you punch them through. So you got to pull all those out. And then this is going to sit up into place up this direction. I'm not going to lock it in yet. But you're going to want to put it in its position because you've got a bunch of additional holes that we're going to have to drill, just like all the other ones. So we're going to put that into position like so. We're going to mark them and we're going to drill them. So I'm just going to drill these out. I'm not going to worry about taking it off because there's space underneath each one of them. So we're going to do like normal pilot drill and then a bigger one. So I'm going to put this back into place temporarily. So I can just do a simple mark on which one is going to be the bolt or the part that holds this down. There it goes. There it goes. And then this one here. The other holes are for the weather stripping, and those can have a smaller hole. So we're going to pop these now. These are 5/16, much like everything else we've done.
7/32.
And then we're going to use a 7/32 for these other little holes. We already put this plastic tab back here. It just slides over it. That's what holds it into place. There we go. And then when you do that, you got to make sure that you get on that one. You're going to slide all the rest of them. Oh, I missed this one. Ready?
Yep.
Go. There we go. All right, and then these just snap on through. Do remember that this last one on this end is a hook, so you just got to lay it over that end. You can always pull it afterwards. It's not super crucial. All right, last thing here is just make sure that you put this cap back in. It just snaps into place. Covers a few of these. Goes underneath the fender, I think, too. Last time today.
Hopefully.
Hopefully I didn't jinx us. All right, over. Yeah, don't forget to clip your fog lights. Wide fenders installed. Nice.
Would that take 20 minutes? Half an hour at most?
20, 30 minutes.
20, 30 minutes?
20, 30 hours. So they gave us these caps to go over here and slide down behind that black part, I think. We're not going to use it. It doesn't really fit. I mean, we can tighten it up and make it fit, but we're not unhappy with that look as is. That bolt for us is tolerable to show, and we think that's a cleaner look than adding the cap on, so we're choosing not to add the cap. But it is provided for you if you like this look, and you can do it. We have a little dent or a pocket popping out there. Not straight. That is straight. But it's a bigger gap than I think stock. And this looks okay, but once again, it's not perfect. That might be us. I mean, maybe we could have ground down here a little bit on this side. We had to ground down on the other side, but we could have ground down here maybe to try and pull that up. But everything was fitting. It fit pretty well. This line definitely gets bigger as it goes down. Here's the passenger side. This is the one where we added that spacer to try and match this position here, which it's still a little bit down, but that's a lot better adding the 1/4 inch spacer in there. And you can see that this doesn't line up 100%. I mean, it lines up pretty good here, but then it just gets bigger and bigger. That might be because we pushed it away. We could maybe suck it up that way with a screw or something, but it just doesn't want to go anymore. And the fiberglass fenders are rigid and they do not budge. This line looks pretty good. It's, once again, it's a little larger than I remember. And then over here, I mean, we're super tight right here. We aren't hitting, but it's crazy tight. This is off up on the top. Like I said, crazy tight, and just gets bigger and bigger and bigger as you go down. Holy cow, these ADV fiberglass fenders were difficult to put in. If this is a job that you want to do yourself, I do suggest you have a lot of experience working on vehicles, and if you have any fiberglass experience, that is a bonus. I mean, just learning how to manipulate the fiberglass, where to trim, how to trim it, took us quite a while. I'm hoping this video is going to help a lot of you out, because when we were running into problems, there's nothing online for this. So I'm going to make this video long. I'm going to show a lot of the steps just so that it can help other people out in the future. We aren't 100% satisfied with this. There does seem to be some big gaps and some like lines that don't match up. Now that could be our fault. Because we aren't professionals at this sort of thing. I mean, it's just not lined up perfectly. But some of it, I don't know if that's just the mold, you know, so I'm not entirely sure. If you know or have some advice for us on these things, please put them down in the comments down below. I would appreciate you watching, and don't forget, keep crawling.